Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 4, Text 40. Nadati kvachit utkanto. Nadati kvachit utkanto. Vilajon rityati kvachit. Rityati kvachit. Vilajon rityati kvachit. Kvachitad bhavana yuktas. Kvachitad bhavana yuktas. Tanmayo no chakaraha. Tanmayo no chakaraha. Nadati kvachit utkanto. Vilajon rityati kvachit. Kvachitad bhavana yuktas. Tanmayo no chakaraha. Nadati kvachit utkanto. Vilajon rityati kvachit. Kvachitad bhavana yuktas. Tanmayo no chakaraha. Because some devotees online to chant, please.
Hare Krishna. Narati kvachit utkanto nilajo rityati kvachit kvachitad bhavana yuktas tanmayo nuchakaraha.
Nadati kvachit utkanto virajo nrityati kvachitad bhavana yuktas tanmayo nuchakaraha.
Thank you. Word for word. Nadati exclaims loudly, addressing the Lord, O Krishna. Kvachit, sometimes. Utkanaha, being anxious. Vilajaha, without shame. Nrityati, he dances. Kvachit, sometimes. Kvachit, sometimes. Tad bhavana, with thoughts of Krishna. Yuktaha, being absorbed. Tatmayaha, thinking as if he had become Krishna. Anuchakara, imitated. Ha, indeed. Translation. Sometimes, upon seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prahlad Maharaj would loudly call in full anxiety. He sometimes lost his shyness in jubilation and began dancing in ecstasy, and sometimes, being fully absorbed in thought of Krishna, he felt oneness and imitated the pastimes of the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prahlad Maharaj sometimes felt that the Lord was far away from him and therefore called him loudly. When he saw that the Lord was before him, he was fully jubilant. Sometimes, thinking himself one with the Supreme, he imitated the Lord's pastimes. And in separation from the Lord, he would sometimes show symptoms of madness. These feelings of a devotee would not be appreciated by impersonalists. One must go farther and farther into spiritual understanding. The first realization is impersonal Brahman, but one must go still farther to realize Paramatma and eventually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is worshipped by the transcendental feelings of a devotee in a relationship of Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Here the feelings of Prahlad Maharaj were in the mellow of Vatsalya, filial love and affection. As a child cries when left by his mother, when Prahlad Maharaj felt that the Lord was away from him, he began to cry, Nadati. Again, a devotee like Prahlad sometimes sees the Lord is coming from a long distance to pacify him, like a mother responding to a child, saying, My dear child, do not cry, I'm coming. Then the devotee, without being ashamed due to his surroundings and circumstances, begins to dance, thinking, Here is my Lord is coming. Thus the devotee in full ecstasy sometimes imitates the pastimes of the Lord, just as the cowherd boys used to imitate the behavior of the jungle animals. However, he does not actually become the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj achieved the spiritual ecstasies described herein by his advancement in spiritual understanding. Nadati kvachit utkanto villaggio nrityati kvachit bhavana yuktas tanmayo no chakaraha. Sometimes, upon seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prahlad Maharaj would loudly call in full anxiety. He sometimes lost his shyness in jubilation and began dancing in ecstasy, and sometimes, being fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, he felt oneness and imitated the pastimes of the Lord. Om Mirandasya Kimanjana Shlakaya Chakshur Urmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Rave Namaha. Hare Krishna. But I was reflecting on this particular verse, especially the purport of Prabhupada. I had this in my heart filled with gratitude of the gifts that we have received through Krishna consciousness, especially by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And two things stood out for me. One, that we have opportunity to fully realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. And also that we are able to engage in such a very intimate relationship with the Supreme. So Krishna has three aspects of his manifestation, we can say like this, of his personality. And they are described in the purport here as well, that the first aspect is his Brahman, he's just his effulgence, and then his localized aspect is Paramatma in our heart, that is a friend that is always there with us, that is not only witnessing our activities, but also is there just waiting for our openness to receive the instruction. Paramatma is the secret sauce, they say, to law of karma, because this notion that, when nobody is watching, I can do whatever I can, and that would be, there would be no consequences. Well, yes, except that there's Krishna, who is always watching. So regardless if somebody else sees what we do, if this is not proper, Krishna is always there to watch. So he witness all our activities. And then there's localized aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself in this beautiful threefold bending form of Shyama Sundar. And we may, as the devotees, we may take it for granted. Yeah, this is how it is. But this is a powerful blessing, powerful gift that we have to realize Krishna in all those three aspects, but especially the last one. Because most of the spiritual practices, most of the spiritual path, at least the one that I have encountered or know about, their realization basically just goes to the first one, the Brahman realization. even although in some religions they have a aspect of God, even in my upbringing in Christianity, there was a God. But when you really talk to them, it's impersonal. Like they have no, it's so vague. And it's just, there are those three aspects. What is this? Holy Spirit, Jesus, Father, Son. Yeah, but basically all is like merged together. They have no idea who is actually who, and often they point out to Jesus as a God. And of course, there's nothing wrong in worshiping Jesus because he's a spiritual master when it comes to that particular tradition, and through him one can actually reach God. But the God is basically gone from Christian picture, at least. Yeah, it's the Holy Triangle. But yes, so it's still impersonal. And we have this opportunity in Krishna consciousness to know Krishna in full. Of course, not in full, because as Lord Brahma also he was saying that even with all his heads, if he would like talk about Krishna's glories from millions of yugas, whatever, he would not even reach to like a small percentage, so to speak about us. But we can know Krishna to our full capacity as a small jiva. So this is extremely powerful, because how can you love someone? Like how can you love energy? Like how can you love like rays of sun, or all pervading energy or whatever? There's no way to be engaged in a loving relationship. So this is powerful, because only through engaging in loving relationship with Krishna we can fulfill this earnings, this longing that we have in our heart to be happy. This is the only way. So it's not just like three aspects of Krishna's. No, this is powerful. And then the second one, this is like unheard, because other spiritual practices usually the relationship that you have with the Supreme is like Chief Father. And we can say, well, but Prahlad Maharaj, that's exactly it's mentioned here. He also was in Vatsalya relationship, so his relationship with the Supreme Lord was also like a child with a father. But there's a huge difference, because in other practices, often that relationship is give me, give me, give me. Like I actually, for my to maintain wellness, I have some exercise. I go to YMCA for Zumba class. And one of the songs that they play, the refrain, like something very big horse. Yeah, it's like give me, give me, give me. I'm just thinking about that. This is exactly like there's this father-child relationship in other spiritual practices, but it's all about give me what I need, take care of me, and make sure that I am happy. And the whole purpose of you being the Supreme Father is that you're supposed to make me happy. And if you are not doing this, then something is not right. So, and that was, to be honest with you, my understanding too, before Krishna consciousness. I remember when I always believed in God, but my, again, understanding of him was very vague, although I had a concept that there's God besides just Jesus. But my understanding was that he's like far away over there, like behind the clouds, and I'm here and there's no connection. But also my relationship with him, that he meant to help me when I am in trouble. He meant to, like provide me what I need. So although I like to learn and I like to read a lot, but I didn't like to go to school. So, and I had two older brothers that also would train me like this, saying like, "There's no need to go to school." So anyhow, but I was, especially in my high school, I had, I was not the best student when it comes to what shows on a paper, but I was still learning what I very selectively. So I was always wanted only learn that I could practically apply in my life. I didn't like the knowledge that it was just I knew that after school is over, there's application. But I remember, I don't know if I was still doing this in high school, but I know I was doing this for sure in elementary school. In like, yeah, I had a picture of one of the saints from like Christian tradition. I don't remember what his name was, Saint Antoine, something like that. And And the notion was that he is very good, he always helps and like that. So at the back of the picture, whenever I was in trouble or about to be in trouble, I would write on the picture, I would say, okay, I'm gonna give $20 on Sunday. That was not dollars, but equivalent, like $20 if you let me pass this math exam. And it worked. I mean, it worked most of the time. But I'm just sharing this that's the attitude the God's supposed to make us happy, and we only need Him when we actually need Him to do something for us. But otherwise, we have no need. He can stay away. So that's why, like, going to church on Sunday is pretty much enough. Not just like also we know that some in a diluted Hindu tradition it's the same way in many spiritual practices. Just little, just enough, but not too much. So how does that differentiate from what we have here example of Prahlad Maharaj? It's a huge difference because Prahlad Maharaj is following basically what Lord Chaitanya has mentioned in his Shikshashtaka prayers, especially the last prayer when he said, Ashishya Padaratam Vinashtumam Adarshanam Maramam Karatuva Yadatatha Bhavidhati Lampato Matprananathas Tusa Evanaparaha. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me rough by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. So that's a huge difference. So in Krishna allows us to have those relationships with him, but they are based on that Krishna is in the center and he has a freedom to do whatever he likes with his unalloyed devotees. And in the case of Prahlad Maharaj, we will be getting into those future verses when he will be undergoing like this horrible suffering that his father would inflict upon him, but he would remain steady and peaceful, and he would not, have those grudges and like in his heart. Yeah, see, I was like worshiping you and praying to you, and now you're doing this to me. Like, what's up with you, God? No, he would remain grateful in whatever circumstances. He would be totally depending on the Supreme Lord, just like a child depends on a mother in this example. So, although Prahlad Maharaj is hopeless, but at the same time, his attitude is it's like, yeah, whatever you do, this is what I deserve for. And it's very interesting how it's when, especially here, that Prahlad Maharaj would be going through all these different spiritual ecstasies and different feelings. And when we read about this, we may not fully understand and relate. And we have maybe some experience from material world about loving relationships. But at the core of even our loving relationships, there's still our selfish desire and self-gratification. I remember one time my Guru Maharaj mentioned that even at the closest relationship, when it comes to family relationship, at the core of everything is everyone's individual sense gratification. And when it comes to it, they will just default for this. And I was like listening to it, I remember, and I was like, really? Is it that bad? I mean, yeah. So I was like really deliberating when I first heard this. And then I have actually experienced in my own family, which I'm going to share that when my grandparents were still alive, they they needed basically like full-time care in the final years. So my mother and my father would take care of them. Basically not being able to leave the town and being on a call all the time and so on. So they sacrificed a lot to take care of their parents. And everything like so my mother she had two brothers, and they were all living in the same city, but none of them really participated, the other family, in taking care of grandparents. Only my mom and my father did. And the relationship were really nice between all of them. They would like, see each other every so often, and it was nice. And then my grandparents passed away, and in their will, they actually wrote that they are leaving everything to my mother, a house, they had like an everything. That was a natural reciprocation for what actually she has done. And it was not just one, that was years when she was taking care of them with my father. But that really upset everyone else in family. And maybe you have that experience too, but they got so mad. And basically all the loving relationships suddenly ended. And they ended until today. So because they got so upset that, how, this whole situation. So yes, so it's unfortunately true that at the very bottom, unless we are purified and fortunate enough to be in Krishna consciousness, but when you're talking about persons who are not fortunate enough yet, then when it comes to what they will just default for their own self-gratification. So our perception of love and loving relationship is very, very shallow. There's give and take in relationship, basically. I will love you as long as you give me. If you don't give me, then chapter closed. We are moving on, and that's why we see so many relationship, marriage. I mean, now marriage is kind of rare, but the relationship, I don't know what's called like partners. It's being breaking all the time, a relationship between children and parents, relationship between relatives. Yeah, because always, how much do you actually give me? How much are you making me happy? And if you are making me happy, I love you. If you don't, sorry. Yeah, so that's why when we hearing those very advanced expressions of love that Prahlad Maharaj is exhibiting by, calling Krishna loudly and then going into madness by not seeing the Lord, and then being overwhelmed with jubilation and forgetting about his surrounding and circumstances and just dancing in ecstasy. For us, it's difficult to even imagine what to speak to have experienced. Another aspect also is that one can behave like this towards person. And yes, we, as the devotees of Krishna, we have this understanding, at least theoretically, that the ultimate aspect of Krishna that we are aiming to realize is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we have beautiful Krishna in his deity form that is not different from me. But yet, are we really fully realizing that Krishna is a person? Because when we would have full realization that Krishna is a person, that would also affect in our behavior every day, and not only behavior towards Krishna, but also behavior towards everything that is dear to Krishna. So personally, I know that I ought to work in that aspect. That yes, theoretically, yes, Krishna is supreme, but do I have those deep feelings for Krishna? No, I don't. Maybe occasionally there are some material emotions come, but do I really deeply have such an emotion for Krishna? No, I don't. I still have a long journey to purify my heart, but also to realize fully that Krishna is a person. That Krishna is a person. Let's see what else I wanted to share. Yeah, this very sweet aspect. Coming back to Vatsalya Rasa. So there are those 5 different relationships that we can have with Krishna, and we actually have with Krishna. We just have to uncover them again. We have to peel those layers that are covering our true relationship with Krishna. and one of them is Vatsalya. And interesting because until, when we read from Krishna book, the Nectar of Devotion, then Vatsalya rasa usually it's that Krishna becomes a child, and the other devotees that are his parents taking care of them. Oh, and we of course there's Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, but also all the elder gopis, Rohini, even Mother Kunti, they all have this Vatsalya relationship with Krishna. But Krishna becomes this dependent child, very cute, sweet, just like she's just like a Damodar here in Gita Nagari. He's this playful, sweet, charming child, and they are taking care of that. But here we have a different aspect of Vatsalya Rasa that actually it's a devotee that becomes this dependent child, and Krishna is the father taking care of the child, making sure that he is protected and that he is taken care of. And Prabhupada here mentioned that when Krishna was away, then Prahlad Maharaj would be desperate and he would cry, call out to Krishna. And then Krishna would come, he would be passed by. He would feel like, just like a mother responding to a child, my dear child, do not cry, I'm coming. So actually, I had this experience recently with Ruchi. I was babysitting her one of those days, and she was very playful and fun, but I get a warning. Actually, at time, okay, so I have knowledge, my own. So I got a little cheat sheet from Sachi Priya, how to take care of Ruchi and exactly like what time she will be taking a little, snack and what time I can expect her needed a little nap. And then there was a disclaimer saying, okay, when she would want a nap, she would become really naughty in a sense that she would be very fussy and she would be crying. And that means she's trying to fight, not to go to sleep, although she really wants to sleep. And I was thinking also, this is how interesting it is. Like, it's almost like us, although we are grown up, we also often fight against something that we know is good for us. So anyhow, so she's actually came to that place and she would cry, and I, was trying my best to let her sleep, but it didn't work out too well. But at one point, Sachipriya came back to pick her up. And this sweet little Ruchi, she just light up. Like she was just like up like instantly. So yeah, so you can see also example in exactly which Love Prabhupada is saying that the mother is this soothing balm for a child. So seemingly the relationship that Prahlad Maharaj had with Krishna was exactly that relationship. That he was so dependent on the Lord, but at the same time he was not expecting the Lord to be one who will fulfill his desire, one who will make him happy, one who will give him everything what he needs. He was completely dependent, but not expecting anything in return. So stop now and open for questions and comments.
Yeah, I appreciate a lot of the points in your class. I was thinking also about the person points and many religious traditions. Yeah, God is very impersonal. Because I experienced that also coming from a Jewish background, where the idea is that it's blasphemous actually to say that God has a form. Yeah, that if you say that he has legs or hands or whatever, then that's considered a big issue. And also, I've noticed just in my consideration of various other religions that one thing about them is that the knowledge of God that is there, and there is some, but it's actually very vague, right? So like if you look at, the history of some of these religions, right? So like, you're talking about Christianity, if you believed something in 324, you'd be okay. But if you believe the same thing in 325, then it's heresy, right? Because then the, council said, oh, this is bad, so then you're going to hell, right? And there's all sorts of these debates that even go on today because the level of philosophy is like, nowhere near the uh, level found in the Vedantic traditions, specifically the Bhakti Vedantic traditions. Because I know that there isn't controversies. There's obviously controversies in ISKCON even. But at least all of the foundational things are there. Everybody agrees that, Krishna has a form, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There isn't arguments over things like there is in some other traditions over, what exactly happened at the cross or, you know, Sunni versus Shia or all of these things. Uh, so yeah, those are just some of my thoughts.
Thank you so much for sharing also perspective from like a Jewish tradition. Yeah, that's reminded me about I don't do you remember the name of this Maharaj? He's originally I think from South America. It came to Las Vegas. Anyhow, he was telling us a story, and maybe one of you remember the name. So if you remember, please kindly share. How he came to Krishna consciousness, but basically he wanted to find out like one of the things he wanted to find out how God looks like. So he would just go to different um, religious communities, and he would come in either to the church or mosque or whatever. And the first question he would ask, "Can you show me God? How God looks like?" And they were just not able to come up with the answer. So they would just like try to say something, or they would just like say, no, he doesn't have form anyhow. And he was just getting really disappointed and discouraged. And then he would just carry on. And then he said, and then I ended up coming to a Hare Krishna temple. And I come in, and this devotee kind of greets me, and I ask him my question. Can you show me how does God look like? And he said, and this devotee just looked around, pointed to the picture, and he said, here he is. And he was totally like blown away. Like he said, I was like, went to so many different places and nobody was able to answer. And this like randomly just showed me on the picture, and he said, he here he is. That's how he looks like, And he was shocked. Yeah. So yeah, we should not take this for granted. It's unbelievable because without this, there's no question. Without actually having Krishna as a person and knowing so many details about him, there's no way that we can develop relationship. And that's why the other religious tradition or spiritual tradition, they have such a hard time when it comes to change of heart, because the heart can only be changed through love. And how you can love something that is impersonal, has formless, and all of that, there's no question. So that's why, although they may be a very good person, judging by external means, that may be very, you know, engaged in many, charitable acts and so on. But ultimately, their heart is cold because only Krishna can warm the heart. Yeah, so I was just thinking, this is not something we just like, um, quote when we meet a new person and we explain them the aspects of the Supreme. It's not just for preaching, it's for us too, this realization. Do you have anything? No? Anyone online has a question or comment?
Yes, I have a little bit to share. I had this beautiful class. Thank you very much. It was wonderful. And this beautiful discussion, especially in comment of Swarup Prabhu about his tradition background. remind me one point that I heard long ago from my Guru Maharaj, mentioning that yes, we are not yet on the level of having direct relationship with Krishna, with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like Shri Prahlad has such intimate relationship. Well, we are in the process of developing this type of relationship, but as you mentioned about yourself, and I see the same with me, that I am far away from having such loving relationship and exchanges with the Supreme Lord, because I'm the very beginning of the practice, shortly speaking. It doesn't matter how many years I'm practicing now, but the reality of my consciousness is that I'm far away, and how many lifetimes I need to come closer to recognize the Supreme Lord, I have no clue. But reality is that this process is helping us to understand the personality of the Supreme Lord. Like Krishna mentioned himself in Bhagavad Gita many times, that those who understand the intricacies of my appearance, then gradually they will understand everything else, and then can come back to me. So in other words, Krishna is mentioning that if you understand me, my activities, my behavior, my appearance, and this appearance, all different things connected with him, then for sure, gradually he will reveal us. He will reveal himself to us. So, and I'm coming to the point that my Gurudev mentioned. Yes, we need to learn about Krishna, and everything what, like you mentioned, everything what is very dear to Krishna. Because if you don't learn about Krishna, how you can recognize him? Let's say Krishna can appear like he was also doing this, and also Lord Ramachandra was doing in Ayodhya. Sometimes Krishna in Dwarka also, he sometimes put some clothes and appear in the sky on the streets of his place, playing like ordinary person, amongst all this the community, being not recognized that this is actually Krishna or this is Lord Ramachandra. So he was investigating, different behavior of his citizens, his subjects. So if Krishna will decide to appear amongst us, and we don't know what is the dear object of Krishna's of Krishna, and we just deal with everything what is very dear to Krishna, like in very casual, ordinary way. And Krishna will appear amongst us. So we will treat him like ordinary man, very casually. Hey, what's up, man? So it will be not very good, and not good for us as well. So, but if we shape our understanding according Krishna's description of Krishna's personality, Krishna's desire, Krishna's likes and dislikes, and etc. So the more we know him as a person with all these different feelings, affections, desires, etc., expectations, so then naturally we will address everything what is dear to Krishna in a very special way. Because everything what is very dear to Krishna is very special. If we treat everything in special way, so even if Krishna will appear, we will have this attitude toward him. But, and this is what we recently emphasized quite often, attitude is extremely important. Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the very first stanza of his preface to Upadashamrita Nectar of Instruction, that advancement of the follower of bhakti depends on his attitude. So therefore, if we develop this attitude that what is the most dear to Krishna? Flowers, trees, stones? No. his devotees, like we hear today from this particular text, that Shri Prahlad was completely dependent on Krishna, and Krishna was there for him. So this is very intimate relationship between Krishna and his devotee. So if we know that devotee of Krishna is very dear to Krishna, so therefore if we treat devotee of Krishna, like we have exercise with bona fide representative of Krishna, we should treat and worship him like Krishna. So if we treat devotees of Krishna who are very dear to him and they have intimate relationship with Krishna, so even if Krishna will appear between us, amongst us, if we will treat devotees like Krishna, in sense of our sincere respect, adoration, appreciation, gratitude, etc. So if Krishna will appear, we will treat him in this way. So naturally, he will be very satisfied by our behavior, by our act of affection, etc. So our attitude should be that we should take advantage of every particular day as a class for exercising this type of feelings toward Krishna by embracing everything what Krishna is, like you mentioned at the very beginning of your class, by embracing everything what Krishna is supplying us to train us in this bhakti process. Yes, we don't see Krishna yet, like face to face, but we have deities. And we hear from Shastras that they are not different than him. Krishna appearing in the form of deity, Krishna appearing in the form of his bona fide pure representative. So we have everything what is necessary for us to develop this loving affection to Krishna. And these objects we can treat in a very serious way to help us to develop, like again example of mother and child. When child is not present in the home, let's say, but mother has such loving affection to child, so when she is cleaning her room, child room, and when she find some socks or some little shoes, so it's melting her heart because out of love. There's no, shoes is not the child, but this is the paraphernalia, this is the thing which belongs to her beloved child and is melting her heart. So similarly, when if we know this, but what happened if we will take this shoes, somebody else come and take the shoes and threw it, it will be like pinch or punch to heart of the mother. Why? This is just only shoes. No, this is very, very dear because this belongs to my beloved child. So similarly, Krishna is looking on everything what he gave to us in similar way. Whatever is very dear to his lotus heart, if we treat in a very special way, he receiving pleasure. So this is quite, complex subject. We're talking about emotions and feelings and all this, especially, love of Krishna.
When you're speaking, Prabhu, something came to mind that I've heard before. Basically talking on this idea of culture and Vedic culture. Because sometimes it's said it's not. I've heard the argument before that it's not so important that whether we adopt Western things or Vedic things, then either one's okay. And that might be true if you're looking for Paramatma realization, because Paramatma is everywhere in every heart and every atom. But if you want Bhagavan realization, Bhagavan has a culture. Krishna has a certain way of dressing, he has a certain way of eating, he has a certain way of how he and his devotees relate, certain way of attitudes towards social relations in the world and everything, all these things that form a culture. Krishna has one. And it's a very specific one, actually. It's not, just woolly or whatever. And if we adopt that culture, then we can more easily remember Krishna. Actually, Krishna wears dhotis and eats sabjis and plays mridangas, and not other sorts of things. And we've been talking before. I've made the point that every time Krishna incarnates personally, he comes to a certain type of culture. For other cultures, he sends Shaktivesha avatars, which are jivas. But whenever he comes personally, it's a very specific sort of situation. So,
For sharing. That was a good point, like brilliant point about. I never thought about it. Like, yeah. Okay. Question from Yashoda. Hi Krishna, please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Mata. Never
Oh, it's
pronounce.
actually
Goes to Prabhupada. Yeah, I'm just reacting to what Kasral Prabhu was saying. The unfortunate thing about religion is that, you see, the most dangerous thing is to have a distorted philosophy. It's very dangerous. It's better you don't even have the knowledge at all. But if you have knowledge and the knowledge is distorted, that is very dangerous. So basically speaking, there is no culture about Krishna, whether it's the Abrahamic culture, whether it's Islamic culture, whether it's the Vedic culture, whatever it is. The personality of God is manifested. But unfortunately, people have distorted philosophies over the years, so much so that it makes it look as if the true manifestation of the Lord himself is not there. Let me give you an example. In Genesis chapter 31, how the name Israel was got, how did it come about? Jacob fought Krishna face to face. He fought him because Krishna wanted to play the pastime with him. So he appeared as a person and they fought. And Jacob defeated him. And after he defeated him, he said, "What is your name?" Krishna asked Jacob, "What is your name?" He said, "My name is Jacob." And Krishna said, "From this day on, your name shall no more be Jacob. Your name will be Israel," which means the meaning of Israel. He said, which means the one who has fought man and God and has prevailed. Similarly, in Exodus 33, Moses desired to see God. He asked God, "I want to see you." God said, "No man can see me and live. But because you have found favor in my eyes, I will show you my form." So he placed Moses in the Mount of Sinai. And he said, "I'll pass by you, but when I'm passing by you, I'll cover your face with my hand. And when I pass by you, I'll remove my hand and you will see my back parts." So he did exactly that. So if he doesn't have a form, how did he have a hand to cover the face of Moses? And how did Moses see his back parts? And in the same Exodus 24, it says, God ordered that 24 elders out of the house of Israel, they should come to my presence. And included with them should be Abihu, Nadab, Aaron. So totally they were like, I've forgotten the exact number. And he said they went into the presence of the God of Israel and they sat down and they ate together. And they saw the God of Israel face to face and nothing happened to them. And Jesus confirmed it in Matthew chapter 5, verse 8. He said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." So there is a process of seeing God. And that process is to purify your heart, because you can't send a contaminated heart to see God. So the fact that people are destroyed, and you can understand, this philosophy, like Christianity, has been in existence over more than 2,000 years. The Jewish philosophy has existed over like 10,000 years, right? Now, even our philosophy, it has existed since time immemorial, but it became very prominent when Srila Prabhupada came to the West. But within this very short time, you can see how some devotees are even getting deviated from the real philosophy that Prabhupada propagated. This is only like not even 100 years. So what to think of a philosophy that has existed for 2,000 years, that has existed for 10,000 years? Definitely there will be some distortion. And we cannot use those distortion to say that the personality of God doesn't make himself manifest in those cultures. He is there. But unfortunately, when a philosophy exists for such a long period of time, of course, there will be some dissidents. People will rise up and start distorting the philosophy in such a way. And that is why it's up to us to be very open-minded and be able to find the similarities between what we know and other cultures that we can, so that we can have mutual respect for all these cultures, and somehow or the other try to bring them up gradually to also come and understand that even in their cultures, this personality of Godhead exists. I think the time is up, so I don't have my time to talk, so I'll end here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Amar Bhajami.